Rio Hondo Prep Football is one of the best kept secrets in all of Southern California. As one of the smallest enrollments year in and year out, the Cares have won 16 CIF Championships and have been one of the most successful programs throughout their history. Welcome to A Charge to Keep, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep Football. And now, bringing you the latest news and content from his alma mater, a CIF champion in 2001, from the class of 2003, here's your host, Matt Hersema.
What is up, Rio Hondo Prep Football fans? It is the 2025 season. It is the summertime. We are rolling right along here, counting down the days until kickoff for another Rio Hondo Prep football season. I hope everyone is doing well and, travels, the vacations, everything that's going on. Summer is finally here, and that means, well, no school for the boys and countdown to kickoff for the rest of us. So as we continue that, much like we did the past couple seasons with episodes here in the summer, just kind of getting us ready, that slow build, right, for Rio Hondo Prep football and the kickoff that will occur in August. And, we've talked to Coach Carson at the beginning of the summer to kind of get things going. And here we are a few weeks later talking to another member of the alumni, but most notably, most specifically, I should say, as we talk to a few members of the RHP medical staff to kind of give us a little background onto, the people behind the scenes, if you will. A couple summers ago, we talked to a few of the assistant coaches to have the fans, parents, and alumni get a chance to hear about them and kind of their backstory. Well, we continue that with a couple members of the medical staff this summer, just again, getting us ready for the season, talking about some experiences from the past, talking about what the past few years have been like with Rio football. And again, it's just that slow build as we count down to kickoff here in the summer for the Charge to Keep podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Doug Walsh, who played in the 1977 championship game for Rio Hondo Prep. He's on a banner there in the Stiber Center. From what I've been told, just a fierce competitor. Back in the day, would literally take your head off, but a nice man, without the helmet on. So it'll be fun talking to him today about his experiences playing, whatever that was, almost 50 years ago now as we move into 2025. But Dr. Walsh has been a huge contributor to the Rio Hondo Prep football program, as well as athletics all around at Rio. I mean, he's the guy. He has been the doctor that the team has operated with and gone through. And again, of course, Rio Hondo, almost everything there, whether it's the coaching staff or the teachers, it's all alumni basically. And Dr. Walsh is someone that all of us who played football for Rio, I got to tell you, at one point or another, probably remember talking to Dr. Walsh at some point, and you're hoping for good news usually with him. He was a guy that, at least with my experience, he'd always tell you how it was, and for you parents out there, to have a man of the caliber of medical expertise as Dr. Doug Walsh, Rio Hondo is truly blessed. And there's many other great medical personnel that we're going to hopefully get to here in the summer as far as the staff goes there. But all of us, I mean, whether it was a bum ankle or a broken collarbone or whatever the injury was, Dr. Walsh told you how it was, kind of let you know clearly about the obstacles, the challenges ahead, if you will, to speedy recovery. And he'd tell you, sometimes also, hey, your season's done. There's nothing you can do about this. This is going to take many months to recover from. Or, in some cases, hey, this is going to be a pain that's constant, but you can play through it if you can tolerate it. So as a former football player himself, he just had a great demeanor, I remember. And, for some of the more significant injuries over the years, you'd hate to be, hey, you got to go see Dr. Walsh at his hospital, right? Because it was that severe where you needed an actual visit, I should say. But Dr. Walsh was there at so many football games, as long as I can remember. A quiet man, stands by and watches kind of the intensity of the game. And never hesitated to get involved with our players or players from the other team as well. So Rio is blessed to not only have the doctor, the good doctor on our sideline, but someone that understands Rio Hondo Prep football, all it entails, and that it is a game that is played with pain. There's a difference between hurt and injured. Coach Carson often says good players don't get injured. They get hurt. And It happens. Football is a crazy game, and I remember 2 years ago when Nathaniel Shine broke his collarbone, and it was middle of the season, and it was kind of like 6 7 weeks. It was going to be a healing process. I think Dr. Walsh and Dr. Fairley each had something to do with that, but Nathaniel Shine came back in the semifinals, scored a touchdown the first time he touched the ball. Big impactful player there, and then of course knocked down the potentially tying 2 point conversion in the championship game against Santa Monica. So that's an example of the type of, we'll say, rehab recovery that Dr. Walsh and the medical staff do with our student athletes. You have, in some cases, head injuries, concussion type things that do occur, unfortunately, in the game, where some guys have not been able to come back. And I think Dr. Walsh is always going to err on the side of caution and safety and never mess around with those things. So the reason for me bringing on some of the medical staff this summer is to show our parents, to show our um, potential students, to show our people that are interested, or maybe even media members, that what Rio Hondo is, that small school at 5150 Finer Avenue, but it is a school that has just great big resources, and it's all one big family, if you will, in a sense. So I want to assure the parents, and they know this already, but to hear from the medical staff directly, did just kind of hear about maybe their credentials and things like that, that Rio Hondo is in good hands. You're going to get great treatment, great everything with Rio Hondo, and know that they want the best for you health wise, but they will let you know kind of when you are able to push through some things, push through some discomfort. So again, medical staff at Rio Hondo is second to none. So again, other than my injury experiences with Dr. Walsh, I haven't ever really sat and talked with him a great deal. I know he's a great Rio Hondo football historian. Again, won that championship game in '77. I believe a linebacker and a lineman of some kind. Yeah, the triple overtime thriller against Montclair Prep, and every one of his teammates, to my knowledge, whether it's Mr. Shintaku, Mr. Weidman, Chuck Mariotti, all these guys have said great things about Dr. Walsh when he was a teammate and a player. And so maybe we'll get to some of those things later on. I do want to take note that at one point, Dr. Walsh and I believe his wife, Noelle, I believe it is Mrs. Walsh. At one point, and maybe we'll get to this in the interview, they actually traveled around the world. I'm not sure where exactly. Maybe in Africa. I can't remember. Forgive me, but we'll talk about it. But they were missionaries. They went and served and gave of their time and their skill set as far as medical examinations and things like that, around the world. And we're missionaries. They were there to help and assist, and so it'll be interesting to hear if maybe Dr. Walsh wants to dive into that a little bit. But just kind of shows the type of character, the type of healing power, the type of the man that Dr. Walsh is. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And most of our kids, most of our players, they go through Dr. Fairley or Dr. Collins or Dr. Steris. We have all these doctors, right, on the sidelines at any given point in the season. And they work together like a team, really, that keeps our boys safe, keeps them healthy, and gets them back in a timely manner. Not rushed, of course, but safe, but also with that competitive vibe in their minds. So for us old players, I mentioned Dr. Walsh, always a guy. I think he worked our physicals before the season, and the current team. If you got to go see Dr. Walsh, it's a sad thing, it's a rough thing, but I think Dr. Walsh does truly make those experiences as good as they can be, right? With all things considered, when you're a young man, 16, 17 years old, and you're giving your entire life and effort and putting your body on the line out there, the last thing you want to be told is that you can't play, right? Or you got to go see the doctor and he's got to clear you. And there's some difficult conversations, uncomfortable conversations sometimes with Dr. Walsh and the medical staff. But again, like I said, always a comforting yet direct level of diagnosis, we'll say. And sometimes as a young man, you come to tears with based off the injury or whatever it is. And so those doctors and medical staff, they really do care about the kids and understand what they're going through. So it is now my privilege to bring on the show another guest in the summer as we get through the heat, get through these summer months to get to that August kickoff there against Sure High School in the season opener in week 0. And Dr. Walsh, again, will share some stories from the past as well as, kind of his take on the current status of Rio Hondo Prep football. So he's a guy that does great things for the program. A ton of stuff, again, for countless decades now behind the scenes, working with the players and getting them right and everything. So it's my privilege to bring on the show Dr. Doug Walsh, a CIF champion in 1977 in that infamous triple overtime thriller against Montclair Prep, and the team doctor for Rio Hondo Prep for countless decades since then. Here we go. Our featured guest of the week, Dr. Doug Walsh. All right, joining us today, as promised, is Dr. Doug Walsh for the Rio Hondo Prep Football program, a proud graduate, a CIF champion back in 1977, and someone who has contributed greatly not only to RHP football, but has lent a helping hand around the world as a doctor even. So, Dr. Walsh, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Good seeing you.
Hey, I know it's springtime, it's May, but it's never too early to talk Rio Hondo Prep football, and I know alumni like you are always excited and kind of counting down to kick off another year of Rio Hondo football.
I think that's very true. I mean, Rio Hondo football is always, I remember growing up that way, the whole year around football, we were thinking football.
I don't think much has changed, even though we're competing at other sports, doing great things. The school seems to be centered around it. So you talked about growing up, Dr. Walsh. Where did you grow up? And I always love asking this question. How did you find BCL, or did BCL find you, Boys Christian League? How did that all go about?
I grew up mostly over in Altadena, and by I was third grade, we moved over to Monrovia and moved to Pilgrim Way Street in Monrovia. My neighbor was Mike Murphy, and he invited me to come to BCL. And I think it took him about a month to get me there. He said, "Oh, I'll come. Oh, I come." And I think after 3 times, I think finally he might have said, "Okay, that's it. I'll either come or don't." But I ended up joining, and it was fun. Mr. Phillip was my coach, also Mr. Coulter, Bob Coulter. I was not a very good athlete, but I remember I got to play baseball off in the corner of field 0 by Mr. Ostergaard's office. That's where the Pokey Dots played baseball. So, so that was good. Went to Wild Rose with Mike in Santa Fe, and that was a very good time of my life. I really enjoyed playing sports there. Going to watch soccer games by the college guys. Remember going down to Chapman College and watching Mr. Coulter and Mr. Mosier playing. So that was something.
Wow.
And then going to the football games was always exciting. I saw this, 6-man football and the championship team in '73 play. So that was exciting, and had different heroes on the team, Mr. Clevenger and Mr. Parsons and Rick Dunya. So yeah, it was a good experience. Finally, I ended up going to school at Rio Hondo Prep with Mike Murphy and a bunch of guys in 7th grade, and played some sports there and whatnot. I don't even think I was good enough to be on the school team, actually. So I didn't play there. I played in the Care Youth League program. And then it was so went to 9th grade at high school there. And our freshman year was kind of a bummer year. It was about 4 games. We didn't have that many games. And the teams we played kind of were much better than us. We kind of got clobbered. But the one thing we had a saying, next year they're our size. Next year they're our size. So come sophomore year, we were looking for next year they're our size. And what is interesting, at that time, things had changed in the high school program, and Mr. Johnson just entered into the high school program. And he was to be our JV coach, and he was the varsity coach. And we didn't, at least being from Superior, we didn't necessarily like Mr. Johnson.
Because he was the
And
Indian coach, right? All those
he was the
years.
Indian coach. And that's how I recalled it. And we were kind of like saying, oh man. But that was the greatest experience, just that playing under Mr. Johnson. And especially when he just started coaching. He really was a great coach. And just the camaraderie we had as a team and as the team with the coach, it really made that experience greater than even any win that we had. I look back at it, it was just a privilege to play on Rio Hondo Prep with Mr. Johnson coaching. And it just started out in JV football. I remember when he was coming back from the summer trip, I think it was our senior year, and we picked him up at the airport. I mean, we had a bunch of guys just driving down to the airport to go pick him up. And it was just, a great experience.
That's really cool. I mean, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dowd coached before him, of course, but Mr. Johnson really, I don't know, the architect, if you will, of Rio Hondo football, and for so many years of the championships. And of course, the current team gets to be coached under his son, Randy Johnson, as the offensive coordinator. So it's fun seeing that tradition continue. If you could, for those that didn't have the privilege really to play for Randall Johnson, I mean, how would you describe him as a disciplinarian, a smart guy, of course? I don't know, Mr. Randall Johnson Sr. and the legend that he was.
I think I would say he was a coach and everything that kind of goes into the coach. Brilliant mind, but I can remember in practices that he's interacting with Ken Fuller or Chuck Mariotti, and these guys are kind of brainstorming. They're young and they have some ideas for different plays, and probably the famous play, hike it through the legs, and Mariotti takes it around, or whoever it was. That was there, and yeah, it was just really a great experience. It wasn't. Definitely, he was your coach. He was above you, and you respected him. But he was also on that level that with you in this whole experience and whatnot. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but an amazing man. And it's just the ability to form a friendship and just going through that whole process playing football, because it's a long process. You start off in the preseason and going through the double sessions and stuff, and going through the games and ups and downs, and it's just a really good experience with him.
No doubt about it. We miss him tremendously, but his fingerprints are all over the program still,
Right.
Including some of the plays we run to this day. Have some of that I don't know, twang to it. But if you could, Dr. Walsh, you played at Rio. We're in Rio at a very interesting time, a transition time, going from that 72 runner-up finish to 73 champs, and watching those guys, and then going into 8-man from 6-man, and of course coming up short, I think in 76 with some great seniors that you guys played under. And just talk to me about the buildup really from your high school playing days, 76 and everything that kind of went into that senior year and the 77 season, and of course the game, the triple overtime thriller.
Right. So 76, I was a junior, but we had great players like Dan Kirby and a few other guys, and Peter Amundsen, and and we lost to Montclair. It was a heartbreaker. I blew a few plays on the kickoffs, letting them around me. I could imagine how people are pulling their hair out and whatnot. Why did Walsh let that happen or whatever? But that was a really great team, and we lost good players, and we come to 77. And I think it was on our mind, Montclair was there, and it was going to be, what's going to happen with Montclair. And so there was a buildup of that. And, we met Montclair at the beginning of the season. And I think I'm probably off. You'd probably know it. The score was, I think, 44-22. But I think we walked away from that game, at least myself, saying, oh, we could win this game. It was not, this is winnable.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of at that kind of score, but I think we felt that we could, beat Montclair. And, we went through the season. I know I had an injury. Ended up with a stress fracture of my tibia. Ken Fuller ended up with a meniscal tear, and it just I know for me it kind of slowed me down, but fortunately it healed. With Ken, he played with the injury, and he would be good, and then sometimes the knee would go out, and it'd slow him down, but he was always fighting, and
Mm.
it's amazing what he ended up doing on the field despite that. But I can remember some stupid things easily for myself. How the option, I think Flint Ridge was great at the option, and I always got suckered by that guy. Give it the handoff and run with the ball for a few times. You probably see me suck in and pull it out.
Yeah.
And but that's something I remember. And but going into the playoffs, it really comes down to Montclair when we faced off with them, and it was. I'm trying to think. I don't think I was nervous. I think once you get into the game and start playing, you're doing your job, you're doing your thing, and whatnot. I remember the one thing I did, which was interesting, not until in college, I did kinesiology, and mostly kind of like sports medicine, but it was cardiac, pulmonary and cardiac physiology, biomechanics. But we also had the psychology of sports, which was interesting. They talked about visualization, going through what you're going to do. Well, as a senior, I remember the night before the game, sitting in my car with the playbook, going through my visualizing what I was supposed to be doing, especially on defense. I was supposed to turn the play inside, have Willie Hurst I was supposed to take out Willie Hurst, keep everybody going from around me. So I thought that was kind of an interesting experience that as a kid or in high school, that I had done that the night before, later to find out, oh, that might have been useful to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of that in sports. Some of my favorite classes in college were sports psychology, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that Coach Carson does a great job of now. Mr. Drain even there was that visual. Casey, I have trouble with it too.
I know.
Visualization. It's a
Say
tricky
that
word,
five
but
times fast.
yeah, positive, thinking and just kind of seeing things happen and preparing your mind.
Yeah.
And, we've all seen the game on YouTube or whatever it is. You guys beat Montclair Prep in 3 overtimes. What was it? I mean, you said you weren't too nervous. I mean, once the ball's kicked off, I'm sure you're playing football as a kid, but I mean, man, what was it like being on the field for that game? The back and the forth, the chasing of their running backs all over, and the physicality. I remember there's a still photo of you like grabbing some guy around almost taking a guy's head off. Mr. Wyman posts those things too.
Yeah,
So
I
it's like
I
an
don't even
intense night.
recall that. I don't even recall that. I mean, it's a very flagrant face mask, and turns the guy's head. And yeah, everybody sees that and says, Walsh, what were you doing? Or, and who knows? I don't even recall that. What I recall is I forgot the guy who was in front of me I had to block was a pretty big guy, strong guy, and um, I think it's by God grace we moved them.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, those guys were really good, really fast, and I think what was remarkable, I think we were doing very well in the game, and then Montclair after the second half ends up coming back, and then we were behind, and then that one play with the hike through the legs of Mariotti around the corner and around the end and just diving for the end zone to take us into the overtime. The overtime, I don't remember too, it's just, you get 4 plays, 4 plays, 4 plays, 4 plays. And, in the end, we came out on top, and it was incredible. It's, once you win, it's like crazy. So,
Yeah, walk it off. You were
yeah,
you were an offensive lineman, right? You were
I
saying?
was a guard. I was guard. Mike McGarren was a center. Um, Jim Hannum was next to me, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
And,
trying to
so
think.
that final play, I mean, it's Mariotti up the middle basically on a dive to walk it off after I think Hannah had the interception in
Yeah.
overtime. And so I'm sure I could see it. You're probably on the ground in a pile of players. I don't. What was it like? Mariotti's maybe next to you with the ball on the ground. Do you remember that play, or was it just a blur? Thinking, man, we won it, we did it.
Um, I think it's a blur. I mean, I
Yeah,
know you're in the trenches of the trenches,
yeah,
and you're just yeah, blocking. I think they all ran off tackle to the left of me, so I think it
mm,
was more in the 5 hole,
yeah.
and so that's how I recall it. So you get to 65, you might not remember everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of tying it into this last year's football team, Dr. Walsh, the state championship game. I don't know. Did you get a sense on that final play that unfortunately didn't go our way? We go for two, we go for the win, and it's kind of like, man, if we can get 3 yards, we are state champs. We run
Right.
our best play and we come up short. I mean, did you think back at all in that moment to scoring a walk off touchdown for your team when Rio had that ball last year at the 3 yard line on the PAT?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, that was disappointing, and that's how uh, where we got wasn't because we were good. I think we were well coached, and it's just sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't come up, and
Yeah.
I think yeah, I think talking to Randy or Mark, I kind of said, you know. There is a verse that I had just read. It says, saying of Jesus says, "I have glorified you, completing the work that you've given me." And I really think this past year we didn't win the championship, but that team completed the work of the season for their team.
Mm.
And I think being on winning isn't everything. And the thing that was ironic, I think the takeaway that I took as growing up, the next day, Saturday morning at morning work, um, I said, well, is that it?
Yeah.
You win and it's all over. And really, the whole experience is really everything that came before it. After winning,
Yes.
once you win, it's well, for me, it was what I, as a kid, said, well, or a senior said, well, that's it. It's And I think it's just going through the process, playing the
Mm.
game, doing the best you can, and enjoying that sport you get to play. I
Yeah.
loved playing football. I loved playing with the guys I played with, and loved playing under Coach Mr. Johnson, and that is, I think, the reward for a Rio Hondo football player.
Yes.
The opportunity to play with a group of guys, to live and die, you might say, or suffer playing sports. And I think that's the way it should be.
Hmm.
Because, if you measure your success in that trophy, that's very um, uh, shallow or whatever. And it's taking away from all those years that maybe they didn't win the thing, but they had they had the coach, they had the work, they had their friends. And that really made a difference. So Rio Hondo Prep football, that's what makes Rio Hondo Prep football special,
Hmm.
is that teamwork. You all have a job and you got to do your job. That's what the coaches are reinforcing. And that even in the down seasons, there's good.
Yes. There's things to achieve. There's things that you can take out of it because there's
Right.
not every season's going to end, the way you want it. But the beauty of it is, like you said, it's the journey, it's the goals,
Right.
working together. And yeah, sometimes when you win, like you guys did, it's like, okay, it's over. Now what? Like
Yeah.
I've talked to Mark about this. There is almost, you remember, there's almost an emptiness. Like when you win, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, no, we did that. We achieved
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. You guys go down in history as for that legendary game. I mean, but I'm sure even to this day, the relationships, the teammates, you seem close with all those guys still, Mr. Murphy,
Right.
Shitaku, Weidman. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what, when it comes to the end, I mean, if you have the trophy, I think that's God's grace to that
Mm,
team. And, and that's, it's nice doing that, but it's, I think if you spoke to most of the guys, if not all, it's really the experience of working together and the friendships and camaraderie and going through that whole thing.
hmm No doubt about it. And before we get into your kind of medical journey, if you will, I'm curious. Back in the '70s, I doubt we had an official team doctor back then. Who was kind of helping you guys out with those bumps and bruises back then? Was there a nurse? Was there a trainer of any kind? How did it go about back then?
Well, Mr. Coulter took care of the teams. I think he
Okay.
did an EMT class. He taped us up for the football games.
Okay.
Um, and he had done that for several years. And I would go, he actually also did with Mr. Hampton. Mr. Hampton would exercise uh, every day, or at least remember on the summer trips. And even he had a treadmill up in the office where Mr. Hortons has. But because of his heart condition, he exercised every day. And Mr. Coulter would check his blood pressure and look after him for that. And then he also took care of the trip health on the summer trips. And then he did the football teams. And
Okay.
he, he did that because he was asked, and he did as much as he could. And I think he did an EMT class, and it was fun. It was fun doing that. And I ended up, just tagging along during after I graduated. I don't know if it was right away, maybe a few years down the road, I would tag along and cover games with Mr. Coulter.
Okay.
So, and then it wasn't until I ended up getting into med school. I went to med school at Irvine, and then ended up at a residency in Whittier. And then at Whittier, I ended up shadowing a orthopedic surgeon. He covered Cerritos College. And then I covered some of the high school football teams down in Whittier, and also covered Rio. So
Okay.
I
And
did
and I heard
that.
And I heard pretty much your teammates said that you kind of had aspirations of being a doctor pretty early on in high school. How did that all come about? Your interest in getting into the medical field?
Well, I was younger. When I was younger, God called me to be a physician. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of like a still small voice. Some people say, well, don't listen to those, but I can only say that he spoke to me. I think I was about sixth grade or whatever, and it wasn't anything. And I was not I had a hard time reading, and I probably have dyslexia. I never was checked or anything, but I struggled with reading and whatnot. Wasn't the best student. Was doing even did reading clinic after I graduated so I could improve my reading. Um, and uh, so I was not really excited as sharing this aspiration that God had gave me. And finally they got it out of me when I was a senior. And they like, "Oh, really?" And that's pretty, really? So, and just as we talk about that, it goes back to God's faithfulness, taking this kid, who, brought the Care Youth League or Boys Christian League, came up through Rio Hondo Prep, played football and different things, went to PCC for 4 years to finally transfer to UCLA, and finally graduated from UCLA, but didn't get into med school. And then it was kind of like, well, now what do I do? So it's 86 and I didn't get in med school. So I'm down at Daniel Friedman's hospital doing, no, I did an internship at Daniel Friedman's hospital in executive fitness, or what we did, exercise testing for pilots and executives. So after that, I ended up going to Long Beach State doing well, I didn't quite. What happened was I went to Children's Hospital, LA. I was pushing paper and then also going to a sports medicine clinic. And so I'm down in the basement stamping things. I'm going, I'm not getting anywhere here. So I'm walking down an hallway one day, and there was an advertisement for EKG class, a heart, when they put the leads on the thing, that's an EKG. So you're reading those and using that for testing. So I ended up doing that class in Long Beach State. It was a great class. The guy who taught it from the state, Long Beach State, he was a exercise physiologist. But he brought two cardiologists in to talk to us about exercise testing. One was Dr. Frohlicher, who was world renowned. He had done 10,000 tests or something, a lot with in the Air Force. And the other guy was also known, Elistad. He was from Long Beach Memorial. Long story short, Dr. Davis, I ended up doing my master's down there, and Dr. Davis said, Dr. Frohlicher is looking for a research assistant. So I ended up there doing that at the VA hospital while going to school. Wow. And then we would do exercise testing and things like that, but it ended up after 2 years, he says, you really do want to go to medicine. He says, let me see, let me do a few things. So it's not what you know always, but who you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he was able to get an interview for me, Lisa at Irvine, which was a miracle. And I had an interview. And the other miracle was I was interviewed by some gynecologists, the fertility experts. And that was like a interview that was a bomb. And they were pretty straight, cold, and whatnot. But the guy who was a medical student, fourth year, we had an interview, and I told him about my experience doing coaching at Care Youth League, working with boys and doing all that. And this guy says, we really want you. You should be at our school. And I think it was him who pushed. And
wow.
I was accepted. I was at a summer camp with the team I was coaching. I was coaching the Tigers. And I got a call from my mom and said, yeah, they called and they said, you're accepted. And that was in, July. So that means they'd already kind of got their class settled. They had a few open spots and I was on the reserve list. So it was God's miracle there. And yeah, so just as you talked to me today, I just remember, it was God who kind of worked out me going into medicine, not Dr. Walsh. So
yeah, it is. It's a great lesson, and that's why I love doing this podcast, is hearing everyone's journey, because there's so many lessons there. It's a perseverance, and when you're called to something that doesn't sound like it makes sense, and then you don't think it's going to happen, and then it comes true in some weird that you never could have predicted. So that's a great lesson, especially for our young student athletes today. And some of us just need to hear those things, myself included. So what an incredible journey, Dr. Walsh. That's man, that must have been did you said physician, what exactly is your, I guess, specialty? I don't know the terminology and all that. So what kind of doctor, or kind of what field did you go into?
So I ended up choosing to go into family medicine. So I spent 3 years at Whittier Presbyterian. They were associated with USC. I was fortunate to get a fellowship at Kaiser Fontana for 1 year.
Hmm.
So during that year, uh, that was just completely sports medicine, except for 2 half days I would do family medicine or urgent care type work. But was able to, that was a great experience because you saw a lot of injuries and you can develop your ability to diagnose and evaluate injuries. During that time, I covered North High School out in Riverside.
JW, yeah.
Yeah, so he at that time, and that was an interesting experience too, because the coach there was Coach Paredes, who was one of the famous coaches for Bishop Amat. And he's coaching at and at a public school. But it was interesting. These kids were well behaved and very respectful. And I couldn't believe it. It was like a private school. And I actually brought my wife to a game. And she's, commented and said, wow, this is amazing. So I learned during sports medicine, I remember covering Whittier games. Sometimes the coaches are, losing control. I
Oh
saw
yeah.
the coaches lose control, the kids lose control. Coach has control, the coach has composure, coach is calm. The kids do just follow him. And I saw that at Riverside with North High School and Paredes. So that was a good experience. Enjoyed working with that team. Also worked with Chaffey College and did covered Pomona College for a game out into Iowa. That was a good experience.
Oh,
Flew with
traveled
the
with him, huh?
team, traveled with
Nice.
them. It was really fun experience. You're on a bus going through the cornfields of
Yep.
Iowa, and these kids are reading Plato or whatever, and it's just really smart kids who love football. It
Yeah,
was just
the
a fun trip.
Skyak. Skyak football, the D3 football. Yeah, there's kind of some brainiacs out there.
Yeah.
Chafee, was Coach Carl Beach still at Chafee back then?
Um, I'm
Maybe
not
not.
quite. I
Seemed like he was there forever. I had the privilege to work some of his games. He was a really good man there. I'm
I
sure
liked
it'll.
they had a really good team too. I enjoyed
Mhm.
covering Chafee's things, but that was amazing. And the experience of just you see the Pomona guys and see the Chafee guys. They're
Yeah,
totally two different things.
totally different. Totally
But
different.
they,
Absolutely.
in all the circumstances, both of them were appreciative that you're there, traveling with them, going to the game, and remember playing out in the desert with Chafee and traveling up to Victorville and whatnot. And
Oh yeah.
it's just always it's a fun thing to travel with those college players.
So was this a way kind of, with you being involved in football, not just Rio, but football altogether, was this kind of it's sounding like it was kind of a way to blend both of your worlds. Sounds like you love football. You obviously love what you're doing, passionate about it, and to
Yeah.
be able to kind of bring those two together, is that how you kind of came about being team doctor for some of these teams?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the stuff from my fellowship, those were required, but
Mm.
after my fellowship, I ended up doing a lot of sports medicine. I had 1 year with APU. The first year they went to the national championship, or they won the championship for NAIA at that time,
Yeah.
and that was fun. Traveled up to Seattle, Central Washington, and saw them play there. They were taken to the cleaners. It was like 22-60 or whatever, but they were in they ended up playing the same team, Central Washington, at APU, and they won,
Wow.
which allowed them to go to Tennessee to play the championship game, and they played Nazareth or Navarrete college, and cold game, wet game, and they won.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and traveled with the team, had fried food with them. It was just a great experience. I enjoyed that. So
Oh man, football is just the best. The travel, the
Yeah,
bus rides. It seems tedious, but no, it's a beautiful thing. Brings everybody
right.
together. And I know one thing as an example, not quite your level, but like at Rio Hondo, if people find out that you are good at something or you have a skill, like yeah, you work in the medical profession. As an
Yeah,
example, like we were good trumpeters, me and my buddy Bill Ritter back in high
yeah,
school, and it was like, okay, well, you're going to play the trumpet for everything at Rio now, and it's like, wait a
yeah,
minute, no.
yeah.
So is it kind of that way when you're a doctor there at Rio? It's like, oh, well, you're going to be our school doctor, our team doctor, or is it just kind of something that naturally fit for you blending in?
I mean, it was a natural fit, and it pretty much was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be good at what I had, was doing. The fellowship provided the volume I needed to just get the experience treating, evaluating injuries and treating it. So as I graduated, it was where I wanted to be. Ended up after APU covering Citrus College too. So I was doing both Rio and Citrus and, traveling, going to different games and, it was fun. I enjoy interacting with the players and just encouraging them in what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many football is this is it takes a village or whatever the phrase is. I mean,
Yeah,
there's just so many moving parts, and you see it a lot at Rio. Even though we're not a big college program, I don't know, it has a big time feel to it. Dr. Walsh,
right.
you've been around the Rio football program as the team doctor pretty much for many decades. I was thinking about it with all the former players. How many former players, think about their injuries in high school or whatever, and so, oh, Dr. Walsh took care of us or did our physicals and things. And um, I want to ask you, as being a former football player at Rio and obviously a doctor, a medical professional, that balance really with our current student athletes, for example,
Mhm.
Rio kids are tough. They play through pain, they play through being hurt, that difference between hurt and injured. Do you find, I don't know, it's easier to address being straightforward with some of these kids to be like, hey, you can play with this, but this is going to be a little painful versus, hey, you need to stay off of this completely.
Right.
Because there was a time when you were that kid who was like, I'm
Yeah.
hurt, but I can play, So just the,
Right.
the balance there.
Um, yeah, I think it's a little harder because I played and you kind of say, oh, I'll play through it or whatever. Um, but then you have the other obligation as a physician, what's best for that person. And you can't let the love of the sport or the rah, 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 or, that whole, that football mentality interfere with the physician mentality, which sometimes is a struggle. You might go back to um, uh, doing it the old way because I just remember the whole maturing of concussion management
Yeah.
from we had guys who were totally confused during the game. It's like a boxer who's kind of half there, half not there.
Mm.
And you're learning that, oh, maybe we shouldn't have been, it shouldn't have
What's the
been
old phrase?
playing.
The old phrase. Oh, he
Yeah,
just got his bell rung, right? He's got his
yeah,
bell
yeah,
rung. Now it's a much different age with concussion
yeah.
protocols and things.
So I think, that's where you have to, balance the um what's, best for the person as a patient as opposed to an athlete. So it's at times a difficult decision. And it's
It,
it's never fun to pull a guy out of a game.
No, and I think the pitch to the fans and family is that I just think about it through your eyes. Like I've been, we've all been told, hey, you can't play right now or whatever.
Yeah,
When the heart is willing, but the body is unable to. Is
right.
it difficult for you to look in a young man's eyes, probably sometimes with tears in his eyes, and tell him like, hey,
Yeah,
you cannot play tonight or for the next couple of weeks?
yeah. I for me um it's hard just to tell him, but also just to sleep with that decision.
Mm.
It's just either way. It's you know these guys they give it all they have. They're just pouring out their life, doing the best they can. And here you saying, okay, you need to stop. And yeah, sometimes, it's heart-wrenching, and that's the difficult decision you have to make. And you kind of have to set it aside and you do what's best for that person.
Well, I know Coach Carson, for instance, our head coach, he knows our players are in good hands. And this is kind of the purpose of this podcast, or a couple of them this summer, is to let our fans and families know that the kids are in amazing hands. And I don't know, there's something special about the fact that most of our medical staff, if not all of it, all guys that played Rio Hondo football themselves. There's Dr. Fairley,
Right.
Dr. Sterish, Dr. Collins. We got doctors
Yeah.
everywhere, it seems like. Talk to me about that and kind of the growth of the medical side of things. It seems like we got a lot of different guys now helping out in that side of things.
Yeah, it's encouraging seeing Dr. Collins, John coming through, and then other people and whatnot, Dr. Fairley and whatnot. It's encouraging. I'm still scheming for an athletic trainer. I don't know how it would work out, but it would be nice to see an athletic trainer. They just bring a different uh, thing to the team, where the
Yeah.
trainer is with the athlete day in, day out. They know the person and their mentality and things like that. Whereas if you're not around the kids, these players, you really don't know them as well. You can, as you cover, you get some idea, but somebody who's there day in, day out, they
Yeah.
learn that and whatnot. So it is amazing how um, it seems like Rio Hondo's kind of exploded in terms of sports and things like that. And, newer things, track teams, golf teams, and soccer teams doing better. And we ended up having the boys volleyball team. So there's, in the last 30 years, Rio Hondo Prep sports has not been stagnant, and it's
No.
exciting.
It really, really is to see the growth of it. And the school has grown, but still not that big of an
Yeah,
enrollment. I mean, yeah, it's great to see the kids have options. I think it's great to play year-round sports, whatever your
right.
sport is. Um,
Mhm.
it is phenomenal. And you brought up the athletic trainer. What's funny to me, what I find humorous about that is, we used to kind of have one in Randy Johnson. He was a great athletic trainer, but
Oh yeah,
uh,
he is a great athlete. Yeah,
we
yeah.
needed him to call plays though. As the offense, that's such a real thing. Your trainer becomes the offensive coordinator, so
Right,
he's
right,
doing
right.
that. For those that don't remember, the parents and things. Yeah, he was kind of the last guy to be. He was a certified athletic trainer for a long time, and
And
now
he
he's
still is good.
he
I
still
don't
is.
know.
Yeah,
He maybe when he retires, we'll get him. No,
absolutely.
he's he went through training and he covered was the college over in England, Eagle Rock. I mean, he had that. He has great experience in the past, and
Oh, a ton.
uh, when he was doing it, it was amazing. So my experience working in college, at Chafee and at um, APU and then Citrus, I always found it a great experience working with the athletic trainers. So,
Hmm.
and I think you end up doing a better job. So maybe someday we'll see.
Yeah, they're a lot more hands-on. It seems like they're the first ones to the injury, if you will.
Right,
Whereas if you're not at a game and you get sent a player on a doctor visit or something, it's a little
right.
different. So they are, in the action, if you will, with all that. So, if you could, Dr. Wolf, we talked about the evolution of the Rio sports and everything. How about this football program? I mean, say the past 3 years, as long as I've been doing this on the podcast, I mean, we have seen things that this team has done that, I mean, we never in our wildest dreams could have thought. Beating Santa
Mhm,
Monica in Division 9, beating Warren in Division
mhm.
7, being 1 yard short from a state championship. I mean, as someone who played in the 70s and has been around Rio for many, many decades and seeing it in its current state, I mean, what are your thoughts on the past couple of years of Rio football?
Amazing,
The smile,
amazing.
the smile says
I
it all.
mean, um, you know, just to go to 11 man was probably the biggest metric. It was one thing from go to 6 to 8 man. It changes a little, but when you go to 11 man, it's a whole different. And I think during the first few years of the 11 man, it took time to get, figure it out and bring it together. It didn't just happen. It was a very growth. And I think, we just see a lot of seeds were planted during some years and things have grown. We understand it, 11 man, just getting a wrap of what works for us and whatnot. And just I think there's a bigger breadth of just in coaching in terms of special, the line and things, special things. And I think what's exciting is having Pastor
Rocky.
Having Rocky there. Rio Hondo's, I think the one thorn in Rio Hondo's flesh has always been pass defense in the past. I think.
Yeah.
I'm not a great coach. And I think over the last 2 years, I was excited to see how the team from a defensive pass defense had matured, and the plays that they made, like Josh Curtis, there's just knocking it down. I remember one of the playoff games. I'm like, that is amazing. And that's I think that's one of the hardest aspects of football, running up the middle or blocking or whatever. But defensive coverage, you don't know where that guy's going. You're trying to stick like a fly to them, but you don't have their mind. You're trying to keep your eye on a running play, and it's just, to me, it's mind-boggling doing that as a rusher and a blocker. You don't have to think. You just hit the guy in front or get around that guy.
Yeah,
when you're a defensive back. It's
you're on an island. You're chasing guys. You're reacting. They know where they're going and the ball's going, and you got to react to it all. So yeah, Curtis was great last year. Tyler Dang has really stepped up. And he's going to have a great senior year. Kalojiro Chico, the little guy who doesn't miss tackle. I mean, Elias Harback there. It's a great group of guys that you're right. I know the state championship game was a little rough for all of us, but I mean, that was a great team with one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen too.
Yeah.
So, but overall, you're right. The pass defense has improved significantly over the years with Coach Rocky there.
Pelagio is amazing. I mean, the guy's he's playing outside linebacker or whatever.
Outside linebacker, kind of a hybrid guy. Yeah, he does it all.
Yeah. And how they do that? It doesn't make it. You get it, and you're saying, okay.
Yeah, it's Rio Hondo.
Yeah.
That Rio Hondo heartbeat.
So I think what really impressed me is that everybody did really well. But I think what over the last 2 years, I would say with Coach Sato's help and some really hard work, I think our pass defense has definitely improved to a lot over what it used to be. And it's just a hard thing. That's like I said, that's probably the hardest position to play.
Yeah, not anyone could just do it, and it's easy to criticize from the stands, but man, it's a tough job. So it's interesting with the evolution of football. It's a much pass happy game now, and our traditions is still run the ball, stop the run, play physical, and it's funny to see over the past decades how not much has changed with real football. The manner we play, the type of athletes, and of course the great coaching as well. I mean, it's a great tradition that has really stood the test of time, and I think has a bright future ahead.
And as you brought that up, I think the pass defense, but actually the offense too, what is incredible, and this was true of the Montclair game. We would have to, Montclair could score on one play. You do one thing wrong, counter, and we're not there and Willie Hurst or Harper is in the end zone, then we get the ball and it's like 10, 12, 13, 20 plays, whatever.
Boom,
And that
boom,
was
boom.
true of this team.
Mm.
And that is hard because you have to be almost perfect. If you get a penalty when you're running the ball, it essentially hamstrings you and you probably won't have a successful drive. And those drives that they had during those games were so long and pretty much error-free, not a penalty, and they kept it going. And I mean, they took away the one team never got the ball that one. Was it
Warren,
Downey? Warren.
third quarter,
Third quarter, they didn't
unbelievable.
get the ball.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's just unheard of.
And that I mean, that's commendable. You don't just you can have good running backs and you can have with that, but you can't make an error. If you make an error, you really just, and they didn't make the errors and they kept it going.
Absolutely. You can't say it enough. I'm excited about this group next year and everything that's coming. And, a moment I brought up from 2 years ago, Nathaniel Shine, going to be a senior, broke his collarbone, I believe, in the middle of the season. He was out the entire, 7 weeks. He comes back in the semifinals. He scores a touchdown and, of course, knocks down the potential 2-point conversion, tying against Santa Monica.
Right.
He's a hero. And weeks before, his season was over with a broken collarbone, but he was able to battle back and rally. I mean, when you see something like that as a team doctor, I mean, I don't know, you talked about having to tell kids they can't play, but when you see something like that, a kid battle all the way back, I mean, does that make you smile a little bit knowing everything he went through to get to that moment and come all the way back?
That's a very, it was a difficult situation. They don't normally come back. He did, I think, have it surgically fixed, which makes a difference. I had a kid at Cerritos College. I remember covering the game. He fractured his clavicle. They didn't do surgery, but they waited 6 weeks, and he went back out. He kept on begging the Dr. Swanson to go in the game. So he was back in the game. He went on first kickoff. He was on the bottom of the pile and re-broke his collarbone.
Ah,
So I think about that, and that Shine was able to get back into the game and was healed. And, he was in, good hands and whatnot. That was just exciting to see. I mean, it's devastating for a young guy like that to just, end up with an unfortunate injury. And, what do? You're
yeah.
just hoping for the best. And I'm glad it really worked out. I remember watching that play. I'm going, who was that? I mean, he just ran around everybody on that run. I'm going, well, that was Shine. I said, yeah, it just was so amazing. So it's just fun to see somebody when they're really good at what they do, and and when you don't even have that talent, and you can look at it and say, wow.
It is wow is right. And it speaks to the character of the kids we have. I think it's
Yeah,
contagious, really, when you put that
yeah,
Rio uniform on and the type of guys they've been the past few years. I'm just
yeah.
excited about the season. Dr. Walsh, I want to mention something that you, I believe, and your wife took part in about 20 years ago or so, that I think those who don't know might find interesting. You actually traveled to Africa and were missionaries for three plus years. If you could talk to me about that experience, I believe it was 2005 or maybe 2004. But if you could tell me about the experience, what made you guys do that, and just about the overall experience itself.
We were called to be missionaries into Kenya. We were, I was assigned to Kijabi Hospital. It's a city up in the hills, about 6,000 feet, similar to Camp, about 30 miles north of Nairobi. So we were there. We served from 2005 to 2008, 3.5 years.
Wow.
Ended up taking care of just all sorts of patients. Um, it- just different things. You get car accidents, taxi accidents, sometimes somebody getting gored by an animal or something like that. So, and then we had other HIV was a big problem there, and TB and things like that. So we had an opportunity to do that. We also um, trained Kenyan physicians. So it's when they would graduate from medical school, they had the opportunity to do a internship, and we were one of the sites. And while we were there, we were training anywhere from 4 to 8 doctors a year. They would train on doing medicine, pediatrics, OBGYN, and then also surgical rotations. So the hospital was pretty amazing. It had its own orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, pediatricians, and OBGYN doctors. So it was very well staffed to also help teach Kenyan physicians. So, and during that time, family medicine residency was established. Surgical residency was established, and they were already training nurse anesthetists. So it was a great experience. Where we lived, it was a big mission compound. The hospital was there, a pastor school was there, and a missionary school was there. Rift Valley Academy. It had about 500 students. About 100 of them were nationals from Kenya or surrounding countries, and then the rest were missionaries. So that was a great experience. I was their team doctor and school doctor, and they played not football but rugby. That was a big sport. Rugby and basketball was big up at RVA.
Some
So
injuries
that was a
there.
good experience. We enjoyed doing that, and our 3 boys went with us and enjoyed that. You could walk to school and see baboons and other things, and yeah, it was a different experience.
I've heard, only stories from those who've experienced it, but one of the obvious issues, I guess, would be that so as far as safety goes, like when you're there, when you're in another country as a missionary, it sounds like you were pretty well received with the school and everything. But I don't, was there a level of danger as far as your mission work there, and maybe some people didn't like seeing the schools and the missionaries and the help from the West, maybe was received, in an opposite way.
Well, it is a lot. It's more dangerous when you're in a third world country because some people are poor, some people. So that is that evil element that somebody can rob you or whatnot. So I mean, we were trained to don't stay out late. Get back before it gets dark. There are certain areas you don't want to travel through. Stay away from those areas and whatnot. But unfortunately, during the time we were there, they had an election and they didn't like it, and they started fighting each other, different tribes, and it was horrendous. People were doing terrible things out in Nairobi and different areas. So during that time period, we would restrict our travels and not go out from the mission station. I ended up doing some outreach to my friend Mohammed, got me to go down to a suburb of Nairobi called Eastleigh, otherwise known as Little Mogadishu. So we treated Somalis. They had a clinic down there, so we would see the Somali people there, take care of their medical needs and whatnot. But there was one day, I've had one day that I was coming back home, and the U.S. had just done a raid on up in Somalia and blew up a few things and whatnot. So there was a little tension there, and I was leaving, and I was driving my Land Cruiser. I turned onto a street. I looked down the street, and it was a sea of white. It was people praying lying on the, bowing on the ground with their white robes. And I'm going, a white American driving down that way would not be a good thing.
Mm.
I was a little frightened. I was frightened. I ended up pulling back and going out the other way. But yeah, and during that time, we had some people coming into the clinic yelling at us, because I was American or whatnot. But Mohammed would take care of things, and they would know, take care of that. And they were very appreciative that we would come and come down there and meet their needs. So, but
But Dr. Walsh, leaving the United States, going into a foreign country, third world country, and doing it for, I mean, 3 years or so, that couldn't have been an easy decision. And did you just have this? I don't know, the driving force behind it was just a faith and a trust in God, because that's not something, a decision you just make overnight. And it couldn't have been easy being there either. It wasn't like a vacation or anything. So, kind of, what got you through all that? Just kind of knowing you were doing God's work.
um, yeah, it was a challenge, but I think God. I think the one thing that really encouraged us, we had to raise support to go to um, uh, Kenya. So we had different people contributing to our fund to support us while we were over there.
Mm.
Um, so back in September of 2004, I needed to do tropical medicine. So we went to Liverpool, stayed there for 3 months, and I studied there. During that time, we had 50% of our support. And so when we came back, by the time we came back, we had gone up to near 100%. So I talked to the people, but the sending organization was African Inland Mission, which was based out of New York. And they work with the churches to help send people. And the guy said to me, he says, Doug, I've never seen this. You went away and you raised support, and most people stay and go around to the churches and end up getting support that way. And it was like God worked it out. And I can remember our first when we first arrived in Kenya, and I was at a prayer meeting, and the guy, he says, "Anybody have a song to sing?" And I said, I had one. I said, "Great is thy faithfulness." I said, I'm only here. My family's only here by God's, grace and faithfulness, and that was pretty amazing at
Mm.
that time.
Well, God bless you for that, Dr. Walsh. That's an incredible story. I remember when it was happening. It's hard to believe it's been, 20 years or so, but
Yeah.
happy to see you on Friday nights at Rio Hondo games. In a few months, we'll be doing just that. You said you're 65 years old now. I mean, how much longer you think you got in the medical profession and being there on for Rio Hondo Prep Football? Any thought of retirement anytime soon?
Um, I'm looking for a good doctor to cover all the time. So I think it's hard for you know John and other people. Covering games takes a lot of time, and when you have family and
Mhm.
whatnot. And we'll see what God does. You know, I'm not getting younger, and definitely you feel your age. But I'm not using a walker yet or a wheelchair, so I think I can make it. So
Well, we appreciate all you do, and again, I wanted to bring you on to talk, get again some perspective for the parents and everyone out there that Rio football is in good hands in all phases, not just the coaching staff, but on the medical side of things. And I look forward to another season here very soon. It'll be great seeing you on the sidelines, and hopefully, we don't put you to too much work this season. You
no,
get to
no,
just
no.
enjoy the games.
Wait, one more thing.
Go
One
ahead.
of the most, I'll have to say, one of the most incredible things. I wasn't at the game. I was back at my son's house, and I watched the one championship game on TV. And I need to thank you and those who do the TV. That is so amazing. And I was sitting there and I said, God, I just was thanking God for the guys who did this, the guys who were announcing you and whatnot. And that was another, I can't believe this. One of these Rio Hondo Prep Peer Youth League things saying, thank you. And, people at different places can watch and see Rio Hondo Prep. And no matter where they're at, they get to still experience Rio Hondo football, Rio Hondo, and you guys make it possible.
Well, thank you so much. It is a blast. It's kind of like, I just did the obvious. I turn the lights on, right? And be like, hey, we all want to watch this. Let's watch this together and talk about it. And so I guess my final question to you, Dr. Walsh, you kind of touched on it, but if you would, Rio Hondo Prep Football, why is it special? Why does it mean so much to you to continue to be a part of it? And just, I don't know, what's your pitch and why it is so special and we get so fired up about it every fall?
I think it comes down to each individual player. And it's kind of like Care Youth League's, motto, his future is now. Each person has their own gift. That's the whole thing about football. You have a position or a job or whatever, and just doing that job, finding that thing that boy or girl can do, that they can find success and say, hey, I got it. They may not be on the field. It might be they're doing something else. But they're contributing, and that as coaches and leaders that we are trying to find that God-given gift and just, help it, nurture it. And I think that's why I'm at the game, cheering them on, praying and just watching, that they would, get that experience. And I think that's the greatest experience one can get.
Well said, sir. We will see you in a few months on the sidelines. Thanks once again for all you do, Dr. Walsh. It's been a privilege. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Well, all it takes sometimes for me in the summer is to get kind of the first couple episodes done. I record these weeks in advance for many different reasons, but it kind of builds momentum for myself, much like I talked to you guys about building momentum for the season. Man, I just love talking real football, and there's so many great people like Dr. Walsh that are a huge part of it. The stories, why he does what he does. It's amazing, and it's why it's a privilege and an honor to do this every single year now for the past 4 years. And some people might wonder, why are we doing episodes in June? I mean, the season is still 2.5 months away. Well, many reasons. It's to get us ready, get our minds ready. The weekly episodes out for you guys. But there's stories to be told that once we get to the season, it's kind of about reacting to the games with a little bit of history sprinkled in there. But it's important for the boys and the families to understand the history of this program, what it's built on, and the type of people it produces. And really, if you want to know what Rio Hondo Prep Football is about, I would say tell someone to subscribe to this podcast, and hopefully they get it over time. And Dr. Walsh, incredible man. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and for everything you do for the team, and not just that, but the mission trip to Africa and all his other patients he's had. I mean, just someone who's a very giving spirit and very much appreciated for. So it's June as you guys are hearing this, and we have a few months to go, but I got to tell you, I'm fired up about all this. And I was thinking about doing the episodes again this summer, what I was going to do, what approach, and I was like, well, the guys will be on the Europe trip. So if nothing else, I don't know if they listen to these or not, the full episodes anyway. They seem to like all the clips. But, this is something to tune into maybe for guys also during those long trips across Europe, long bus rides or plane rides or whatever they're doing. So, and for the parents, hopefully it gets you guys inspired and alumni, because come August, man, it's on. It's football season once again. And the summers are nice, but I do enjoy football season more than anything in the world, and we will get there before you know it. So thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Charge to Keep podcast. And for the different guys who I reached out to about Dr. Walsh. Thank you for your messages and kind of descriptions of him back in the day as a high school teammate and things. And if you notice, a lot of these older guys, I don't mean that by any insult, guys. Just older gentlemen will say, they are lifelong friends, and that's what our guys are going to experience. 40 years from now, they'll be talking about their days and times playing together and traveling Europe together. And again, the Rio Hondo Prep experience, unlike anything else out there. And I hope more and more people reach out and become a part of it in some small way. And to those out there watching and listening, hey man, here we go. Subscribe to the podcast. Share it. Tell people on social media. We'll be active there all summer. And again, Friday nights episodes all summer long as we build up to week 0 and the first game of the season of the 2025 football season. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week. Once again, Dr. Walsh, 1,000 thank yous from me and the RHP family at large. But until next week, guys, your friendly reminder to always be humble in victory and gracious in defeat, because we always have a charge to keep.
A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live. And, O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give.